This is the most expensive dual sport that you can buy at Walmart.
But coming in at $2,170, it's also the cheapest fuel-injected motorcycle at Walmart. I recently made a video on buying the cheapest overall dual sport at Walmart, and hopefully this one is a lot better because that one ended in immediate disaster. But we won't know until we put it to the test, so let's unbox this thing and see what we bought.
It was only $2,200.
And I am really hoping it's worth the money because obviously the last one was not.
This dual sport is more expensive because it is fuel injected and it has these nice inverted forks. The engine here looks exactly the same as the cheapest dual sport at Walmart, so that's a little concerning given how our last video went.
My first impressions are really good. It appears that nothing was damaged in shipping, everything was packaged up really well, so we're off to a good start.
The forks look pretty good, pretty large at least. Electric start. Let's open up the goodie box, see if this one came with any instructions.
But in the goodie box, there was actually something I wasn't expecting.
Oh, a rain cover, nice. The last one was supposed to come with this and didn't. Some mirrors for making her road legal. Blinkers, tracer for the front wheel. So this must be all we're gonna get.
The bike came with the same little grease pack that a lot of these Chinese bikes tend to use, and it always makes sense to grease any bolt that's connected to the suspension. Now I tried propping this up with my hammer, and yeah, that was really dumb. This is before I got my motorcycle jack. I'm really glad that I have that now, because I crushed my finger, and obviously I did. I was trying to hold up the weight of this bike with a hammer. And it already seems like this bike is heavier than it should be, by the way.
Since the shape was exactly the same, I was expecting the same cheap looking analog display, but no. On the deluxe, we get a digital display, which should be way easier to see at night, although this thing does have halogen bulbs, so not the safest for being out on the street at night. These things are dull.
The front tire went on really easy, as did the front brake. This assembly process is very simple, and most people would have an easier time than me because they're not dumb enough to prop up their swing arm with a hammer.
While I was throwing on the front tire, I found our first assembly error. Our side case is barely hanging on. You can see we've got at least an 1/8 inch on both these bolts. And on my last X Pro 250, started smoking really bad at the end of the test drive, threw it in the video, and some of you guys said you think the head bolts were loose. So, before I fire this one up, I'm gonna see what to tighten the head bolts to. Go ahead and do that, just in case that was my issue. Because now, seeing this, I'd have to agree with you guys even more that that was probably my issue.
Now at first I thought that these side case bolts were just loose. As it would turn out, they're simply too long. So I'll need to go to the hardware store and buy shorter bolts to fully assemble this bike. And yeah, it's pretty inexpensive, but it's still $2,000. So needing to buy my own hardware to finish the assembly of this bike is just silly.
It's a bit concerning how these don't want to go in all the way without a load of pressure. Well, I definitely shouldn't have pushed it. Now I have the threaded bit into the block. And I kind of had a theory that these were a little too long, and whatever torque wrench they were using in assembly, it said it was tight enough, so they called it good. But honestly, I wasn't wrenching that hard on it. Like, it was concerning, but it wasn't overly concerning. And now I'm in a very tough predicament where I need to take off my whole side case, get that out of there, and then put a new one in, maybe even have to re-drill and tap it. So I am going to buy a shorter one of these, make sure that is nice and snug, and then keep an eye on it on the first test drive and hope it doesn't leak. because I do not want to take off the whole side case today.
Did you know that today's sponsor, Upside, has over 100,000 gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants that you could be earning real cash back from?
Using Upside could not be more easy. You just fill up like you normally would, but the major difference is the price you see on screen is not the price you're paying for, and that's a great feeling. And when you're done filling up, you just claim your offer, and then you're done.
And it's the same easy process for grocery stores and restaurants.
Upside earners are making as much as $280 a year. So click the link in my description to download Upside and use code EDWIN to save 25 cents per gallon on your first tank of gas. Or scan the QR code to claim this offer. Upside is the biggest supporter of this channel, so show them some love and see how much money you can earn.
Now, this type of battery is not my favorite. A lot of batteries right now will hold the back nut in place, so you really only need one hand to thread in the bolt. With these ones, you kind of need to put back pressure on it to keep it in place, and that is just annoying, especially if you're doing a roadside repair with cold or hot and sweaty hands.
Here's some wiring that's unique to this version. I've never had a fuel injected China bike, so that's what it looks like. Looks half decent. How it looks is one thing, but it actually being able to withstand to the dirt, mud, snow later in the video, that's what's going to determine if this is good or not. Actually, let's make sure it starts. And do we have power? Yes, we do. You can hear the fuel pump turn on. Nice.
So now I'm confident that we have the electrical system set up correctly. It's time to do one of my favorite parts, that's just peeling back the graphic covers.
Now before I put the plastics on the front, I want to know which one of these is which blinker. They'll both go to green. One will be orange and one will be blue. Let's see which we put first.
This is honestly really easy to do, and it is obvious, but it would be even easier if it just included a little bit of documentation that said, hey, left wire is the orange one and the right wire is the blue.
I dumped out my baggie of bolts. These are probably to hold on bodywork. We've got some longer bolts, probably for the fenders. These I know for sure are for the fenders, little spacers so they don't vibrate. These guys though, I don't have the slightest clue what's that for. Maybe it'll be obvious once I get there. Let's hope so. Then we have retention springs for the brakes, and these guys just screw in right here. Make you a little more noticeable while you're on the street.
Every time I end up installing the front wheel before the front fender, I always kick myself for it because it's obviously just so much more difficult to do in that order. Look at me here trying to fit my drill in between the tire and the fender. I mean, man, this is easier the other way around. In our goodie box, we had these fill-up heads with a rubber mounted washer. Now this is really nice because it's going to reduce vibration on our body panels.
Here is something deluxe on the DLX. I've actually never seen this on a bike before. So normally in your left fork tube, you will have these guys, and there'll be a little plastic clip to kind of hold your brake line in. And you need the brake line to have a little bit of slack because the fork is going to go up and down, right? Well, couldn't find the clamp, started getting a little concerned, and because I figured I needed to mount that before these, but since I didn't have one in the box, I was just going to slap them on, and we have a nice little plastic clip up there for them to go right into. So there you go, totally covered, totally protected. And since the clamp is at the top of the cover, it should be held in place right where it needs to for that line to travel. Pretty cool solution. Let's throw it on, see how long it lasts. This has a groove in it where this is supposed to line up, and the holes don't line up super well. That wants to be about there, like 1/4 inch out. I'm gonna see if I have 4 spacers. Maybe those are the mystery spacers. Nope, mystery spacers, still a mystery. Only 2, holes don't go all the way through. Let's just hold this where it lines up and hope for the best. Sometimes in this world, it's the only guarantee you're gonna get.
Yeah, how about that premium little clip that I was talking about earlier?
Oh, it broke. Yeah, I didn't think that was gonna work very well. Guess there's a reason why you don't see this on a lot of bikes. Got some threads. There we go. Let's hope the other side fits better.
Thankfully, before I took this thing off-road, I realized that the front brake line was at its worst possible location.
That is in danger zone. I'll have to bleed the brakes anyways. I'll probably loosen this, tilt this up, and then reroute that in the normal way.
The bolt holes in the other fork guard didn't line up well with their mounting points either. So then I was off to the side fenders, and this was a total pain as well, and the bolts they came with were even too long. So as I tightened the first bolt onto the gas tank side, that bolt actually pushed into the gas tank. It didn't puncture it, but it did chip off the paint before I realized what was going on.
Putting a retention spring here is just the worst idea. First of all, it's the lowest point of the bike. So when you hit a rog, log, anything like that, you're either going to break your brake pedal, or it's going to engage the brake, which you really only want to engage the brake when the driver engages it. And they put this stud here for it to go to, which just setting it down on the stand has already bent.
So there you go. There's two reasons right there. I'm sure you'll see the second reason happen at some point in this video.
Even though this is all the way in, that spring is not pulling this to start the brake light. So that's an issue. Now I need to adjust this further away so that when I hit this, it pulls on it to engage the brake light.
That brake adjustment did end up working, and I'm still very concerned for the positioning, but what are you gonna do? All that was left plastic-wise was a couple more pieces of protection in the rear covering that muffler, which there is plastic touching it directly, but I really don't think it's going to be a problem.
All there is left is to spin in the mirrors. They just go right in here, and I've got everything attached, every bodywork, every little part that came in the box, and I still have quite a few bolts left. Not quite sure what to do there, especially this one, what the heck. But I'm thinking and hoping at least 2 of those is for a license plate holder, which is lit. So I need to go to the store, get some brake fluid so I can bleed the front brake. You can tell it goes all the way to the bars. And I need to reroute this and make this face uphill anyways. Get some gas, a couple bolts for the side case, and then we're going to take it on the streets. This bike came with a fancy thumb drive. Let's see what's on it. Maybe it's a high quality how to set up video that I'm just checking out after I already set up the bike. No way. Well, I'm not even gonna lie, wouldn't have used that anyways. I don't have the patience to watch a 17-minute video with English AI voice or whatever that is. But hey, ground scored a cool USB that I can wipe and put other stuff on. So, nice. I got myself some shorter side case bolts. Let's see how they do. I bet you this is exactly what we were missing here. Okay.
Since I broke the plastic clip that was going to direct the brake line to the correct position, I just opted to use some zip ties, and also there was a wire on the opposite fork that didn't have anything to hold it out of the way in the first place, so I zip tied that as well.
So this is a magnetic drain plug, never ran the engine. That's interesting. I guess we don't need to wonder at all why the instructions say to do an oil change before you even start it, but yeah, while that's draining, we'll fill up the gas, start it up,
and hope this engine lasts longer than the last one. Wow, she's gonna take every last drip of 2 gallons. That's good. You want a big tank on a dual sport. The instructions didn't say how much oil, but it did say that the dipstick shouldn't be twisted all the way in. So I got it to the top of the line without it twisted all the way in. Should be perfect. Let's hear this thing purr. It turns out the battery shipped very dead, but this bike is fuel injected, so a couple kicks really should get it started, but that didn't seem to be the case.
Put on some boots for some real kicking. We have an engine light. It won't start. And this says maybe there is a connect plug of fuel pump after finish A. Not sure what finish A is, but if our fuel pump isn't plugged in, then that is what's wrong. But then why is there not fuel everywhere? After I filled the tank.
So with no options left, I just decided to start kicking like a madman. And I really feel like these kicks were a little too easy. There should be some more compression here.
Well, she's running, idling, everything seems just fine. Most importantly, no check engine light. So I'm just gonna push it outside, let it idle for a while, get warm before we do anything else. Here I am with a haircut and a whole fleet of bikes since I started building this thing. It has been a long winter. I wasn't trying to take it out on the road until the roads were dry and clear. Now they finally are. The snow's melted off the trails. I'm about to hit some windy paved roads, some gravel pothole roads, and then take it off-road, go hard on it, and hopefully this thing holds up better than the cheapest dual sport on Walmart, because that did not go well. Also, it was way too front heavy and too soft on the front. But you can tell just by how much higher these handlebars are that the front is much higher, and we have inverted forks. I've got high hopes for this thing. Let's load it up and see how she does. Never ever imagined myself saying this, but is it possible that one could have 2 mini motorcycles? Oh no. I think I actually don't have enough. I just need to organize them better. I am also bringing out the Electro & Co. RTR because we're giving one away with a 1-ton Cummins plus $20,000 cash on grindhardplumbingco.com. Basically, every dollar you spend on merch gets you entered to win all that. So I got to bring mine up for the photo shoot, and then the winner is obviously going to win a brand new one. I'm not really the biggest fan of this. To jump start it, you need to have a Phillips head. I feel like they could have just made that a little clip. Wonder how deep the mud is. We just got our 4x4 Camaro stuck here the other day. I am not used to riding bikes this big. I honestly was expecting more power from the fuel injection. Let's go up the hill and see where we're at. Little jump. Ooh, the suspension feels good actually. I mean, I just bottomed out the forks right there, but on the jump it felt nice. I just lapped you. I bet. did it dumb. I didn't check my tire pressure, so I broke the tube. I bet it didn't have anything in it. Oh, that's my fault. That's just me being dumb. So when I get up to Ethan's today, I'm like, man, they didn't have a rim lock at the store. And he's like, dude, go to the graveyard. And yeah, there's a rim lock. I'm sure we have many rim locks available. I get to take my pick. I have to show you something. You're gonna die when you see this.
Oh no.
So if you were gonna make a little extension to get your brake to mount right, feel how heavy this is.
Good Lord!
Like it doesn't, all of this doesn't even need to exist.
The best part is it's still two separate pieces. They still had to adapt to that. Like, you're making it in a freaking factory. Just make it one piece. That looks like something that I built on the Barbie Jeep 7 years ago. Why?
And you can tell every single thing about it is to be heavy.
To be cheap is what
And
it
cheap.
is. That just cheap.
Not strong, not light.
Nope.
Cheap.
Cheap.
I had no idea, but our tire machine does dirt bike tires. Just have to change a little attachment. That was so easy. This is one cow of a dirt bike. I'm gonna look up the weight of this thing and I'm gonna put on screen right now different popular dual sports you might be familiar with and what they weigh. I bet you it weighs significantly more than some of the bikes with a much larger engine. Let's see if all my riding around kept any kind of charge on this thing. Nope. Not one bit. Am I going to need to bust out the screwdriver? Yep. What a machine, man. It's not just the screw driving, it's getting this piece back on that's such a bummer. It is concerning that you can't start it with the kickstart very well. Well, on the way down the gravel, I realized that this here gear selector that digitally shows you what gear you're in is actually really handy. It's something that isn't super important for dirt bikes, but when you're on the road, I think it's probably good to know. Wait, is 3 the top gear? I think 3 is the top gear. There's no way. I mean, maybe the top speed at rev limiter is 55. And that's just all she'll do. But I can see it goes all the way to 6 here. Let's see. There's 1, 2. Okay, something's wrong. 3, 4, 5. So it has 5 gears. Maybe I'm not clutching all the way. Yeah, it doesn't really want to shift for me. Let's see if that's easier. Man, I barely tap it and then I just kind of feel it go into gear. See, it gets stuck. in between the gears, kinda. Weird. I think 4th gear would be very comfortable for this road. Let's ring it out, see what it can do, huh? There we go. I mean, the front brake could probably be a bit stronger, that's for sure. And the gears are just... maybe it's a break-in situation? I don't know. All I know is that's not good. Especially on the street, you want to be very confident that you're not going to have to think about your gears too much. Alright, let's get at least 10 miles on this bad girl.
This bike felt way better on the paved and gravel roads than it did off-road. But still, the suspension is soft and the brakes just aren't powerful enough. This is a pretty heavy bike, and in street circumstances, you want to be able to slow down really quick.
What a beautiful drive. It's definitely more set up for the street, I'll give it that. Wow. I really like this. I could get very much into this. But man, she gutless though. It's pretty loud given how restrictive that muffler looks, honestly. Alright, let's see the top speed here. Can we get going 70? No, we can't. So it can't quite do 70 flat on the pavement. That we know for sure. It definitely feels like it wants to be straight. That's for sure. And it's super vibrating. My butt already itches. If you rode this thing on a long trip, that would be irritating. The motor isn't exactly counterbalanced, one might say. That's crazy that there's a Trek engine light on our first ride. I also don't think I'm going 50 right now. There's no way. I'll have to check the data on the GoPro.
I trust the telemetry data from the GoPro a lot more, and you can see that it actually is pretty close, but yeah, when I'm going 50, I'm definitely more like going 30, 45. I would say, yeah, see, there was at 50, 44. So we're definitely going a bit faster on the dash than in reality.
We don't appear to be leaking anything, and we're not smoking. So it's doing better than the other Hawk. Although it does smell like soldering iron smoke. Actually, exactly like soldering iron smoke. So that's not exactly what you want. Okay. I really, really like motorcycles. So you have to take everything I say with a grain of salt. But this is a lot of fun. I obviously wish it had more power. I'd feel safer if the brakes were a little better. But you know what? It's fun. And it didn't blow up on the first 11 miles, so that's gotta count for something. I just want to go cruise, explore some random roads, hop up with my friends on some motorcycles. It's just absolutely a fantastic thing to ride a dirt bike, man. Wow. Living the dream, what can I say? I might be on the worst steel-injected dual sport ever made, but I'm riding a bike, So since this seat is propped up for a passenger to be on the rear, it kind of pushes you a little further forward than I would like. Like, somewhere in between is where I'd sit naturally. I'm 6 foot tall. This bike is not made for people as tall as me. But let's go ahead and do the enduro loop now that we know it survived all that. Honestly, I think the rear could be softer and the front could be way harder for the street and for off-road, but all right, let's get busy. This is the hardest terrain we've taken it on so far. I mean, it feels pretty good for this stuff. It's not bad. Not as bad as I thought it would be. It's actually quite fun. I mean, earlier I said these aren't mud tires, but a little speed will do wonders. We call this the enduro loop. I'm not doing the tree ride today on this thing. I'm not built like that. I mean, when you do sit on that elevated back seat, you do send a little grip to the rear. But I think it'd be overall just a lot better without it. Because you really need to move back and forth when you're riding terrain like this. Look at my little cute headlight. And there's the brights. On a normal dirt bike, like when I'm on Ethan's 450s, you just jump this straight to flat. Oh. On this, you bottom out doing what I just did. Hey, I didn't bottom that out. Oh, oh, it hit so hard. I bounced. The suspension should not be this soft on such a heavy bike. It bounced it into neutral from second. Hey, I fell in the perfect spot where it didn't squish my legs though. Well, that was fun. So these new GoPros have a thing called Hyper Smooth, and it really smooths out the footage. I should have turned it off when I was on the road so you can see how vibraty this thing is. Like, you know when you're a skateboard or a scooter on like a rough road and it like itches your feet? This thing vibrates so bad it itches your whole body basically, but especially your butt, your legs, and your hands. But when I crashed this thing, the check engine light went off. Even while it was running. Check this out. Let's go neutral. Man, this thing shifts weird. Okay. Ah. Look. But hey, it's off, so I'll take it.